Hey guys, I was just wondering about this the other day. How many of you came home to an empty house when you were growing up in the 80s and are now facing the task of taking care of your elderly parents when they weren't there for you when you were growing up? And I'm curious to find out how's that working out for all of you. Now, as Gen X kids, latchkey kids, we were given a key around our neck and we would come home from school to an empty house. And we learned very early that nobody was coming to help us. We poured ourselves a bowl of cereal. Some of us just cooked for ourselves, had to take care of our siblings. And independence was actually quite normal. At least that's what it felt like at the time. And now, fast forward 30, 40 years to today, and now we find ourselves getting that call from our one of our parents, perhaps informing us that they're ill and need long-term care. Maybe they have dementia, maybe they have mobility issues, memory problems, all these things that elderly people face. My mom, for instance, calls me quite often now because she's afraid of technology. And my dad doesn't want to deal with it, so I never hear from him. And so they're constantly calling me to do things for them, right? To help them pay bills, all these things that they're unsure of, right? And what's ironic about the whole thing is when I was younger, my parents always told me to be independent, figure out yourself, right? And now that I'm growing up, and now they're getting old and on with age, they need my help. And I think a lot of Gen Xers are conflicted by this because on one hand, you really want to help your parent, but at the same time, if you were neglected when you're younger or physically or emotionally abused, you are consumed with a lot of anger, sometimes guilt and resentment towards your parents. And, the resentment comes from a lot of things. I mean, it can come from just being overcorrected, physical abuse, emotional abuse as a child. And a lot of this anger, we held inside and never talked about because we were taught as Gen Xers to put our heads down and tough it out. And I think many of us ask the question, why am I caring for someone that wasn't there for me for years? And at the same time, we feel guilty because we feel guilty for being angry because, excuse me, as kids, we feel that perhaps it's our sense of duty to take care of our parents. And I recently posted a video about Gen X not having kids because of their abusive childhood and wanting to break the cycle of abuse. Now, I read your guys' comments, and many of you are still angry towards your parents. But I want to tell you something and share with you something that happened to me. And it's not what you expect, because back in December, I was visiting my parents for Christmas. And one day my mom was sitting in the kitchen, and I went down to have breakfast with her. And surprisingly, she started weeping uncontrollably. And she said, son, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry that we had been so hard on you, and that you didn't get to live your life growing up as a child, and you didn't get to experience all the things that the other kids. And I put you to work so hard, and you never got to enjoy. And I hold it to my heart now every day thinking about it. And I got really emotional. Because for years I was so angry. I came out of, when I moved away, I was an angry young man. And thankfully for, just being involved with jiu-jitsu helped me overcome a lot of these challenges. And for years, I held this on my shoulders and never really expressing to anybody. People would ask, why I didn't have kids, and I would just kind of ignore the question. But it was tough sitting there to hear my mom apologize, because I didn't really expect it. It came out of left field for me. And I, for all these years, I never thought that she even felt any remorse. Other than, she used to ask me when I was in my 30s and 40s, she always wanted to go on vacation with me. And my dad wanted to go on vacation with me, but I always said no, and I didn't tell them why. I just felt that they were trying to make up for lost time and feel better about themselves. But to me, I just felt like it was almost an insult, because I thought to myself, well, I didn't need you then. Why now? It doesn't make any sense to me, because that's when I needed you as a child. And now that I'm, at the stage of my life, I didn't feel the need for it. And I didn't really feel a particular strong bond to them either, because I used to see friends that hugged their parents. And for me, when I left home at a young age, it was a handshake. And it was a handshake with my mom and my dad. Even when I went back to visit them as an adult, it felt very, almost like a business meeting and transactional, right? I didn't feel any sense of, I guess, you see so much love in some families, right? When I see the love amongst the family members, it just makes me feel like I wish I had that, right, growing up. And I think, when I sit there and think about this, right, I'm not going to sit here and say that, an apology fixes everything, because it doesn't, because you cannot get those years back. But what the apology from my mother, did for me was it acknowledged what happened, and it kind of validates what I was feeling all these years, and that it wasn't, it was a very real feeling, and it wasn't in my head, right? And, my father, even though he never directly apologized, he tells me, he's told me a couple occasions, and he said that the one thing he always regrets is that he didn't spend more time with us, right? And the biggest reason why I want to let my anger go, is because I did the math. I'm 57 now, and I don't know how many years I've got left on this earth. And I spent all these years battling, waging this internal battle, and it was draining. And just being a martial artist, everything when we're involved with combat or fighting, you always want to be the most efficient warrior. You want to be able to conserve your energy so that you can outlast your opponent. And I learned a lot from this, because in my life, this was my battle. And I was, for many years I was fighting a losing battle. It was like I was trying to fight with, 100 pounds on my back. And it gets draining. And I didn't want to go through the rest of my life like this. And when my mother said those words, I felt it lift off my shoulders. And, I can't bring back my youth, and I can't get back my time that was lost. And staying angry was just really wasting my time on something for years I'll never get back. And I want to really be free of it, right? And not because I had to forgive, but because, the anger was costing me something that I can't get more of, and that was my time. But I can't speak for everybody, and here's where I want to be clear that, this is my story, not yours, and some of you may never get that apology from your parents, and some of you are carrying resentment still, and I see in the comments on my videos, and it's understandable that many of you are still angry, and I'm not going to tell you how to feel, and I'm not going to say just let it go, right? Because it's not that easy when someone just says sorry and then okay, just forgive, all these decades of frustration, anger that you held in you. But I will say this: if you carry that burden, on your shoulders, when it comes to caregiving for your parents, it's just going to make it that much harder. I see how draining it is. My wife is, constantly, running to the care home to take care of her father, and while maintaining a high stress job as well. So by doing that, I see how mentally taxing it is on her. And we're the sandwich generation, so we care for, some of you care for your siblings, some of you have cared for children if you had them, and some of you are now caring for parents who possibly never cared for you when you were growing up. So for our generation, the Generation X, that was never parented, now we find ourselves in this situation where we're doing the parenting twice, taking care of our parents. And some of us are lucky to have found peace, and some are still fighting this emotional internal battle. And if you found a way to let go of it, then good for you, because I get it, because I'm at peace with myself now, and it's great to feel this way. And I always consider myself to be very lucky, and every day to me is a good day as long as we're on this earth. And I can't say anything more, right? And I'd love to hear from you guys. What's your guys' story? And did you ever get an apology from your parents? And are you still waiting for it? Feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear from all of you. And if you like this video, please feel free to like, share, or subscribe. And feel free to check out my next one. All right? Take care, and I'll talk to you next time.